Thank you. Our next song is Return to Sender. Return to sender, return to sender. I gave the letter to the postman, put it in his sack. Right early next morning, he brought my letter back. Return to sender, address unknown. No such number, no such song. We had a quarrel, a lover's fight. I write, I'm sorry, but my legs keep coming back. Then I dropped it in the mailbox, said it's special day. Right early next morning, he came right back to me. Return to sender, address unknown. No such number, no such song. This time I'm gonna take it myself, put it right in her hand. And if it comes back the very next day, then I'll understand. Return to sender, address unknown. No such number, no such song. Yeah, return to sender, address unknown. No such number, no such song. And next one, and I've inadvertently left off the tab for this people. Sorry about that. So you'll just have to wing yourselves with it. It's in C. I normally write them in with or without tabs. No, I haven't put it in the machine. That's all. It's called Return to Sender. Sorry. Treat me nice. Here we go with Treat Me Nice. All good, you brought your own, that's good. Here we go with Treat Me Nice again. When I walk through that door, baby, be polite. You're gonna make me so. You don't treat me right. Don't you ever kiss me once, kiss me twice. Treat me nice. I know that you've been told it's not fair to take. So if you come and go, I'm really gonna breathe. If you don't want me to be, close his eyes. Treat me nice. Make me feel at home. If you really care, scratch my back and run your pretty fingers through my hair. You know I'd be your slave if you asked me to. But if you don't behave, I'll walk right out on you. If you want my love, then take my advice. then treat me nice. So, is someone playing a bass there? Yeah. Okay. Right. No, it's yeah. I'm trying to keep it with the rhythm of this, that's all. Okay, that's our three. More jokes?
Right. Now, I've got a joke that is a little blue. Has anyone got a problem with that? Right. This is the only joke I can ever remember, and I've known it for a very long time. So there were these two old ladies on the bus, and they hadn't seen each other for a long, long time. They were in their 90s, Martha and Maud. And Martha said to Maud, I haven't seen you for ages. How's your husband? And Maud said, he's dead. And Martha said, oh, no. Oh, was it sudden? She said, yes. We were making love at the time. We used to do it every Sunday morning. We used to time it by the church bells. Dong, dong, dong. He'd still be alive today if it wasn't for the fire engine. Ding, 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 ding.
I thought of a joke, but I'm actually going to tell you a true story. But there's a prop I need in the next room. Just give me a moment. I'll be right back. Now, you can see how up-to-date the Duroa Community Centre is. Until a few minutes ago, this was actually still connected to the wall. I've disconnected it because actually it won't work anymore. But anyway, this story I'm going to tell you is a true story, though some of you will find it hard to believe. Now, the thing you need to know, the background of this story. My mum and dad are still alive. They're 91. My mum's not well, but dad's going okay. My dad is a great jazz music fan. In fact, he has a collection of jazz records, some of which are very valuable. But he loves his jazz music. And I grew up, when I was little, we had the Pi radiogram. The one that looked like an item of furniture, you know, red, lacquered, with the little speaker over in the other corner. So when my parents built their first home in 1965 at Lugano, just on the Georges River, my dad's a builder, by the way, and he built the house, and it's an unusual shaped house. They're not in it anymore. They moved across the road and built another house 25 years ago. But anyway, Dad wanted to do something that's common now but was unusual then, which was to build in a stereo system into the house. Now, this has got a raked ceiling, so there would be funny shaped speakers directed towards the middle of the room. And even though people now would commonly put together a stereo with components, in the 1960s that wasn't that common. So my dad had these 12-inch Wolfdale speakers, for those of you who are into technical sort of stuff, in the room, and a Kenwood amplifier, a dual turntable. It was gradually putting this stuff together. Now, where does the telephone come in? The phone in question was exactly like this one, except it was green. The colour's not relevant to the story, but you know, you remember the green ones. Yeah, well, we had to wait to get a phone because the local exchange had run out of phone numbers. This was when we were changing from 6-digit to 7-digit numbers. And we had to wait for a new exchange to be built. So we got the phone, and a few months, maybe a year later, it started to do something that very strange. In fact, it's the only telephone I've ever heard of that did this. So when you picked it up and spoke to somebody, Coming out the earpiece here was the ABC. 2BL, as we used to know it, the radio. Now, those of you that have ever played with crystal sets will know that things like this can happen. It doesn't have to be a formal sort of plugged-in radio. You can actually get sound. No one else had ever heard of this happening, but whenever we talk to someone on the phone, there was 2BL in the background. And you had to hear the other person over the top of the radio, right? Telecom, as it was in those days, had never heard of this problem. And the thing was, no one at the other end could hear it. It was only coming out the speaker on our phone. So, they sent out a guy to have a look at it. And he was puzzled. But this was the day when my dad was putting the stereo together. Now, I have to tell you, in all the years that we lived there, we got used to never turning it up above about 2 out of 10. But we didn't know that the first day. And so Dad had finally got it all together. And he thought, oh, we'll put it up about halfway, 5. And he put one of his records on, and the needle went down onto the record, and it nearly blew the windows out of the house. But at the other end of the phone is a technician from Telecom saying, yeah, I can hear it now, I can hear it now.
Yes.
There you go.
Thanks, Dave. One more, Marlene. Bronwyn.
Okay, so why do scientists not trust atoms? Because they make up everything.